Today I'm going to make a Mediterranean feast of ratatouille with a huge tray of roasted tomatoes and a pan full of slowly cooked saffron potatoes. Hello, I'm Nadine Abensur. I'm a cookery writer and the author of 7 cookery books, including the Cranks Bible, which has just recently been reprinted. I'm a gallery owner and curator, and I'm an aspiring musician and artist. But my passions invariably lead me back to the kitchen. I can't help it. I always end up back here. I enjoy the honesty of cooking, the bonhomie of the table, and the connection to the earth that cooking assumes. I live on a lush acre in Mullumbimby. It's absolutely magnificent. It's so green and fertile, and close to many thriving farmers markets. And I'll use the produce from those markets in this series of short videos. Welcome back to my kitchen. So we're going to make a ratatouille. Now that might take you back to decades ago. It might take you back to your childhood or something your mother used to do. Ratatouille's had an ignominious beating. It's been turned into a mushy, unappetizing looking thing, but in fact it can be the most vibrant looking dish. It's got these beautiful red peppers, orange peppers, yellow if you can find them, courgettes or zucchini, and aubergines. And look at these beautiful little baby aubergines. So we're going to use those. Then we're going to make a tray of roasted tomatoes, just simple roasted tomatoes with whole cloves of garlic, red onion, and some black olives. And we're going to bake them, or roast them rather, for about 20-25 minutes until all the juices come out, and then there'll be a most delicious sauce to mop up with some oven-warmed bread. And what else are we going to do? And then we're going to make some saffron potatoes. These are lovely Dutch creams. They're waxy. You need the waxiest potato you can find. Kipflers would work, and we'll get to those in a minute. And then, if we get time, we'll do some green beans. But again, not like those crunchy, really dull to eat. We're going to do these the Mediterranean way, slowly cooked, so that they just collapse and just become another rich side dish. Simple, but a richness to it all the same. So I think that'll make quite a feast. So let's get started with the ratatouille. So you could of course be using big fat aubergines, but these were just too pretty and I couldn't resist them. There's about 450 grams of each of the vegetables, and I'm going to start preparing them simply by chopping them into fairly sizable chunks. This sort of thing, this sort of a chunk. Aubergines are one of these things that, look, they've become they became such a staple of the vegetarian kitchen, and really took such a battering. So I'd like to use them in the fashion that they were originally intended, which is of course rustic. But let's cook them properly. Let's make sure they do have enough oil. I had an aunt who used to say that aubergines absorbed oil in industrial quantities, which I guess puts people off. But there's no point in using an aubergine unless you're willing to use all the oil that they need to become the succulent vegetable that they can become. And now the courgettes. I know, I live in Australia. I should be saying zucchini, but I can't. Here they are. So just, again, a nice chunk. And it is best to start off with specimens that are not too enormous to begin with. And then the peppers. And you'll notice that I'm not using any tomatoes. And to me, this is what a classic ratatouille should be. just these three vegetables: olive oil, garlic and paprika. And the red hue of the ratatouille comes from the paprika, not from a whole lot of tomatoes. I've seen people add cans of tomatoes to the ratatouille. I don't think so. And just remove the white pith, because a lot's going to depend on just how well you prepare the ingredients to begin with. You need to have a homogeny to them, and there we go. Just about done there. There we go. Okay, so the vegetables are all prepared. And now normally I'd be doing this in a big deep pot, but that just encourages the vegetables to stew up, and go all mushy, exactly what I don't want. So although I will want some of the aubergine to get so soft that it begins to dissolve, I'm going to cook the ratatouille in here. At least I'm going to start it off in here and watch what happens. You'll see how it helps to keep everything just more held together. So I'm going to put a generous amount of olive oil. I reckon it's about a cupful, a generous cupful. It will end up absorbing a lot of oil. And you want the oil to come to a shimmer, so it's hot enough to really catch those vegetables as soon as they go in. You don't want them to be sitting around in tepid, lukewarm oil. And I'll get some garlic prepared while that oil's heating up. I'm going to finely slice a whole pile of garlic, and I might even leave some whole cloves. And finely chop a chili. Not a very hot one. This banana chili, they're quite mild. It's just to add normally maybe a little cayenne pepper you could use, or a dash of Tabasco, but I've got this chili, so I just want to give it a little kick at the end. Okay. So now my oil, you can see and you can hear it's sizzling. So it's ready for the aubergines, and I'm going to put them in first because, as I said, they do absorb quite copious quantities of oil. There's no getting around that one. And I'm going to let them brown a little bit first before I add the courgettes and finally the peppers. I'm not throwing it all in one go because that'll just be an unholy mess. So you want to have it, as I said, each vegetable is still going to maintain an integrity. Okay, now in with the aubergines. Be careful, because it will splash, so just lower them in gently. And you see, they need lots of room to move about. And try and get them cut side down first, so that they start to catch and go golden. So we'll give those, I'd say, a good 10 minutes, and then turn them over to do on the other side, and then we'll come back to the rest. Okay, so while I'm waiting for the aubergine to brown, I'm going to peel my potatoes, because I reckon I can get 2 dishes on the go at the same time here. I'm just going to slice the potatoes. You could, of course, put them through a Magimix or whatever food processor, but I find that makes them go quite watery. So I'm going to thinly slice them, sort of like a $2 coin, maybe a bit thicker. So I've got about 1 kilo of potatoes here. A generous kilo. So that's my potatoes, and it looks like this is ready for my zucchini, because they're just beautifully coloured, beautifully golden. They are going to cook quite a lot longer anyway with the other vegetables in there. But as long as they've got a good start, we're happy. We're cooking with gas. So now in a minute I'm going to season them. I didn't want to season them too soon because I didn't want the water, because the salt encourages the water to seep out of them, and I didn't want that at this stage, but I will soon. In the meantime, I'm going to add the zucchini. Did I call them zucchini? I did. I'm going to add the courgettes. And let the same thing happen here. And again, make sure that the cut side of the courgette is in contact with that hot oil. Because again, you don't want them to stew, you want them to saute. Okay. Coming backwards and forwards to this thing, make sure nothing burns, nothing sticks too much. You want some catching on the bottom, that's essential. But you just want to catch it at the right time. This is the exact right point. Now, at this stage, I'm going to add the paprika. Again, I didn't want to do it too soon because I don't want it to burn or even brown too much. So I'm going to put a very generous tablespoonful and possibly a little more, because in fact that's going to provide the basis of the sauce. And a generous amount of salt, sea salt. And a heap of finely sliced garlic. Now that's starting to look like something. It's starting to get there. Well, we're a way away actually, but you're getting the idea. And you can see what's happening to the spices there. That's the basis of your sauce. That's what a ratatouille gets its redness from. And I won't be argued with on that one. But if you want to add tomatoes, be my guest. I won't. And at this point, we can add the peppers. And again, we're going to make sure that everything sautés properly, everything is coated in the spices. Now, ratatouille is something that can sometimes be cooked for hours, but I'm going to do it actually quite quickly. Of course, I want everything to go soft, but not so soft that it totally disintegrates. I want it to retain some of its integrity, some of its shape, some of its bite, just a little of its bite. And that is looking pretty good. I'm going to just cover it up for a minute. Give it just a few minutes like that for it to release its own juices, and then come back to it. While that's cooking away, I'm going to continue with my potato dish. The most important thing for these potatoes is going to be the saffron, and I've got a big, fat, generous pinch. I have to say that saffron just ain't what it used to be, and I never find it has the pungency and intensity of flavor. It's utterly unique, warm. I mean, it evokes exactly what it is, the stamens of the crocus flower. I think it takes 1,000 flowers to create a kilo of saffron. It's not too bad. And we're going to infuse it in some boiling water and let it really release its flavor and its color. And you'll see, in fact, the more colour it releases, the more flavour you know it will have released. Have a look at that. The smell is becoming really rich. The combination of those Mediterranean vegetables, I think it just takes me back. I can't resist it. And I love the way the aubergine is starting to break down a little. And that's, again, going to help to create the richness and the voluptuousness of the sauce. And we're going to just add little bits of water. I'm tempted, because it's there, that might be a bit of a cheat, but I'll just add a little of this saffron stock here. Ordinary stock would do, boiling water would do, but I've got this. I think it can only add. And now I'm going to lower the heat. So now, while the ratatouille is simmering away there, I'm going to start on the saffron potatoes. Again, a fairly generous coating of olive oil in the bottom of that frying pan. So the potatoes are just going to be slowly cooked, braised really. They're going to be braised in a mix of olive oil and saffron stock. Again, quite a lot of finely sliced garlic. And then at the end, I'll just garnish them with a whole heap of chopped parsley. And yep, the oil's hot enough. So again, let's just put them in, initially at least, so that they hit the bottom, they hit that oil running. And then give them a moment to saute a little in the bottom of the pan. And the garlic. Let's put the garlic in. And salt. And a little cracked black pepper. And some saffron stock to cover. And that smells amazing. Put a lid on it and let it do its thing for about 20 minutes. But I will come back to it and make sure that all that liquid's properly reduced and created a beautifully unctuous sauce. I think these are coming along quite beautifully now, so I'm going to take the lid off and let them reduce. You see there's quite a lot of liquid stock left in there, and I want it to reduce. By the time that's fully reduced, the potatoes will be just soft. They need to be really meltingly soft, actually. There's nothing worse than a potato with bite. That is absolutely not desirable. So there we go. Really, this has just got moments left in it. So now the ratatouille is pretty much ready. It's just sitting there. The flavors will be developing. The potatoes have got just moments to go, minutes to go, but I think just enough moments for me to do the tomatoes. So there I have 3 different types of beautiful tomatoes from the market, and I'm going to just cut them up, put them in a tray with olive oil and cook them quite slowly, about 20 minutes. And I'm going to add a whole chili into that and a whole head of garlic, and I think I'm going to wrap up the garlic. Wrap up the garlic in a piece of foil. And so the olive oil. And see, I don't really hold back here. And this beautiful Chardonnay vinegar. And salt. Put another chili in here actually. Salt and some black pepper. And these dried olives. Now, I can't tell you how happy I am to finally be able to get hold of properly dried olives here in Malambimbi, because I've lived here for 15 years and I've looked and I've looked and I've hoped and I've prayed and I've asked and I've begged and I've thought about doing it myself, and finally we have beautifully dried olives, just as far as I'm concerned, how olives should be. Pop the tomatoes in the oven for about 20 minutes, maybe 25, on 200. While the potatoes are finishing off, I'm just going to check the ratatouille. Oh my God, oh God, that takes me right back to the south of France. I don't need to travel, I don't need to get on a plane. This is it, right in front of me. And now I'm going to add some chili. That's not, strictly speaking, traditional, but just a little touch of chili on top I think will be great. And then just before serving, I'll put some basil on this, some parsley in the potatoes, and we'll be ready to rock and roll. Just check these. Perfect. So I'm just picking some parsley off its stalks. I'll leave a little on, but just as a garnish for the potatoes. And I'd say they are absolutely ready. Some of them are beginning to collapse. I don't want any more to go. Oh, and I'm just going to transfer them into here. Lovely. Here's, see the little bits of saffron there. Nice. Whoops. There we go. Lovely. And a little parsley. You know, you always need height, you need color, you need contrast. There we go. Just a little bit, maybe a touch more black pepper. And I think that's ready to go with the ratatouille, which is, I think, now ready. Let's have a look. Yep, perfect. But my ratatouille and my potatoes and my roasted tomatoes, they wouldn't be complete without a few braised green beans. And I happen to have some saffron stock left over from when I was cooking the potatoes. And as you'll see, I am not going to have these beans be al dente, crisp, hard, inedible, indigestible. I'm going to have them soft, tender, and succulent. There's enough goodness in it. It is, after all, 90% liquid. You need to coax all that out of the vegetable. You cannot just expect it to behave itself and show you its true and best colors if you're just going to serve it half raw. You need to bring out everything that it has. And I can hear that stock is simmering away quite happily there. So I'm going to add the beans into it. So I cooked the beans. I just blanched them for a minute and just let that reduce slowly for about 10 minutes, and then we'll garnish the tomatoes with them. Look, I'm just going to drop a few olives in there. That's it. Now we're seeing the bean, how I think a bean should be. See, it's got the tiniest little resistance, but only tiny, tiny, tiny. And in the meantime, I think the tomatoes are exactly ready to go. Lovely. There we go. All those lovely juices, and they are going to be stunningly good to eat. So I'm going to transfer them into a plate to plate up the tomatoes onto. So just look at that sunshine yellow, all the colours. Actually, they're quite, well, they're summery colours. The all-important juices. So we're going to have this really fabulous locally made sourdough bread. It is the most pillowy, lightest. As someone who doesn't normally eat bread and for whom bread is often a source of difficulty, a properly made sourdough bread, I find, gets rid of all those concerns. So I'm going to warm it up for a minute, put it in the oven. Well, you can see I'm just garnishing these tomatoes with the green beans. It's almost like a second version of ratatouille. The same idea of cooking these slowly so that we bring out all of their succulence. I'd say that's just about ready to go. So now I'm just going to squeeze out those garlic cloves again. That's what we want. And I think that any more little bits of the sauce in there. Last but not least, the ratatouille, which of course you could take to the table just as it is. Looks perfectly fine in that pan. I'm very tempted, but I do have this beautiful plate, so I'm going to use it. And there we go. I have actually chopped up some basil, which I'm going to scatter on top. So here's the ratatouille and the saffron braised potatoes and the roasted tomatoes and green beans and braised green beans and the bread, except ouch, it's going to be burning hot. And the bread. And we'll just tear some of that up to eat with all of these. And that's what this bread is made for, dunking. That's what it's designed to do. And I'm just plating this up for the Canberra crew because I think they worked really hard today. Here's our little Mediterranean trio. I know it's going to be delicious. I hope you get to make it and I hope you enjoy it too.